peninsula of Korea, mountainous and forbidding, lies beneath a blanket of clouds as dirty weather hampers efforts of U.S. airmen to aid the defenders of South Korea against the communist invasion. At the Han River line, southeast of the capital city of Seoul, U.S.-trained South Korean troops attempt to stand against the Reds. Already forced back from Seoul, these Korean foot soldiers reassemble and receive supplies from American bases in Japan. Plane loads of ammunition arrive aboard C-54s at Suwon Airfield. Then off go the South Korean troops to face the mechanized punch from the north. Within a day or two, however, these men were driven backward.
Some graduate and law schools were forced to admit blacks. But the court was aware that the big fight was still to come. The schools, K through 12, white children and black in the same classroom.
Southerners assumed that if grade school kids were in a desegregated setting, they'd get to know each other and they'd get to date each other and then they'd marry each other. And that was the strongest taboo that the South held.
Led by Thurgood Marshall and other young lawyers like Robert Carter, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund was running or aiding cases all over the country. The court picked 5 and consolidated them into one set of arguments, forever known as Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas.
Passengers were told to give up their seats to a white male passenger. She refused and was arrested. An all-day bus boycott was organized on the day of Rosa's trial, December 5, 1955, where she was fined $14 and found guilty.
She was a role.
Yeah. Okay. Come on, boys. We got a job.
If you tell a wish, it won't come true. And after all, a dream is a wish your heart makes when you're fast asleep in dreams.
Number 10, A Streetcar Named Desire.
Oh, your step sister.
Yes.
Oh, hi.
The movie.
You stepped on the school insignia. Nobody does that ever.
I'm sorry, it's my first day here and nobody told me about it, so...
No one knows hardship like suburban.
Walking through a party in the county jail. The prison band was there and they began to wail. The band was jumping and the drum began to swing. You should have heard the knocked out jailbird sing. Let it rock. Everybody let it rock. In our restless world,
5.
Baby, 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 I love you, yes I do. Well, it says so in this book of love, ours is the one that's true.
She almost drive me crazy. Got a gal named Daisy. She almost drive me crazy. She knows how to. I want you to know.
The 1952 Immigration Act, the McCarran-Walter Act, kept that national origins quota in place and then did something very odd and contradictory with regard to Asians. On the one hand, it removed the bar on naturalization, so now Asian immigrants can naturalize. But at the same time, it said only for Asian immigrants, they would be identified by race and not by national origin. So this meant like a person of Japanese descent who grew up in Brazil and wanted to come to the United States would be counted not in the Brazilian quota, but in the Japanese quota. Even though he was set 2 or 3 generations removed from Japan, everyone else was counted by national origin. Only Asians had that particular status. So it's a very contradictory act in that sense. And Truman, in fact, President Truman vetoed that act because he thought it was discriminatory, but they overrode the veto.
In the late 1940s and the 50s, an epidemic of fear swept across America, a fear of communist aggression abroad, coupled with the divisive fear of communist subversion at home. As a result, many decent American citizens found their patriotism challenged by unknown accusers, their reputations ruined, their careers destroyed, all in the name of national security.
Transmitted by the Soviet Sputnik, the first man-made satellite as it passed over New York earlier today.
More than any other decade, motherhood was embraced. Between 1945 and 1964, roughly 76 million babies were born in the United States. Collectively known as baby boomers, it is the largest generation in the nation's history.
The medical community itself was divided on whether or not taking tissue from the dead and bringing it back to life was even ethical.
Dr. Joseph Murray is commonly recognized as performing the first successful organ transplant in 1954. He removed a kidney from Ronald Herrick and grafted it to his identical twin brother. He later went on to win the Nobel Prize in 1990 for discoveries in transplantation. But the first successful organ transplant in the world had actually happened 4 years prior on June 17, 1950, at the Little Company of Mary Hospital in Evergreen Park, Illinois. And Dr.
When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are.
How do you do, everyone? This is Hank Weaver. For the past year, this signature has announced the opening of Disneyland, the show. Now it announces the opening of Disneyland, the place. The people and eyes around the world are focused on these 160 acres here in Anaheim, California. This afternoon, Disneyland, the world's most fabulous kingdom, will be unveiled before an invitational world premiere, and you are guests. Art Linkletter will be